Hello, my name is Ann Théato, and welcome to episode 93 of the Psychic Matters podcast. Today, I'm discussing what I learned at the AFC. What is the AFC, I hear you ask? For those that don't know, it's the Arthur Findlay College. Here it is behind me. It's the world's most foremost college for the study of spiritualism and psychic sciences. It was built in 1871 and gifted to the Spiritualists' National Union by J. Arthur Findlay. And the college used to be Arthur Findlay's home, although he never actually lived there. And after he passed away, he left his magnificent home and its grounds, its library, museum, and lake to the Spiritualists' National Union, with the specific intent to use it as a college for the advancement of psychic science. The AFC, as we call it affectionately, offers facilities unequaled anywhere in the world. It is primarily a residential centre, although since the pandemic, they offer some wonderful online courses. And it is the place to study spiritualist philosophy, religious practice and healing, as well as exploring and investigating the psychic sciences. Students travel from all over the world to study there, and they hold courses, lectures, and demonstrations led by some of the best tutors in the world. It is an incredible place, and I had the very good fortune of studying there this month on a residential one-week program under the tutelage of fantastic medium, Mr. Paul Jacobs. The course I attended was called Meeting the Needs of Today. It was a course for professional working mediums, and Paul's passion is the training of tomorrow's mediums. It was a residential course. I had a wonderful room with its own little ensuite. Now, for me, this is a thrill. I know a lot of you listening may well have an ensuite and wonder why I'm so enthused about it. But for me, I come from a 2-up, 2-down tiny council flat in northwest London. So to have your own ensuite is just a little wonder in itself. I line up all my little toiletries in there, lay out all my makeup and my hair accessories, and I often just stand in the room and then open the door of the ensuite and go, I've got an ensuite. That's how thrilling it is for me. Anyway, talking about thrilling, I was also thrilled to see on the door of my actual room a small plaque which read, "This room is dedicated in loving memory of Ursula Roberts, MSNU." I need to gen up a little because I've decided to make a podcast episode about her life. I so enjoyed the room that is dedicated in her honour. So I will let you know about that once I've done my research. I'll have to have a talk to Paul Gaunt at the AFC, who is a fabulous historian in the museum there, and he will be able to direct me to the books and resources he has so that I can find out lots of information about her and bring it directly to you. Now, I've had friends who say to me, Anne, how do you train to be a psychic? How do you train to be a medium? Surely you either are one or you're not. How can you actually train to be one? Well, it's my belief that we are all psychic, and it's also my belief that we are all able to talk to the spirit world. I mean, how can we not be? We are eternal soul beings, and as such, we all speak the language of the soul. And of course, some people have a natural ability. For some of us, we are psychic all our lives. For some of us, we only turn our attention to our psychic side later in life. It's the same with communicating with the spirit world. For some of us, we see spirit people from a child. For others of us, the spirit world make their presence known to us later in our lives. But for all of us, no matter how advanced we are in technique, talent, or skill, we can always benefit from excellent training. And that goes across any topic in the world, whether it's art, whether it's hairdressing, whether it's dressmaking, whether you're an architect or a hot dog seller or a top heart surgeon. We can all benefit from training to be the very best that we can be. in order to best serve other people in our field. If I can, I like to go to the Arthur Findlay College twice a year, 3 times if I can manage it. And this time, a friend of mine, Susan Hughes, an excellent medium from Dublin, called me and said, Paul Jacobs was offering this course, and she told me it would be sold out. And if I was interested, I should book early for it. Well, I've studied mediumship now under several tutors, but never under Paul Jacobs. And I really felt at this point in my development that he has a lot to teach me and that there is an awful lot I could learn from him. So I signed up. Well, to say it was a brilliant week would be an understatement. I mean, it's always brilliant at the AFC. It's a stunning building with magnificent grounds. The staff are incredibly kind and go out of their way to make sure you have a wonderful stay. The food is fabulous. The rooms are spotless and the tuition is world class. It's an intensive week. For those of you who've never been, it's an intensive 6-day course. Each day begins with a wonderful breakfast at 8 o'clock until about 8:30, and then you're free for an hour to get ready or walk in the grounds. At 9:30 in the morning, we have a half-hour meditation, which is really not a meditation. It's sitting in the stillness of our own soul. At 10 o'clock in the morning, we have our first lecture, and then there's a coffee break after that until 11:30. And then we have a tutorial for 90 minutes, and then we have a lunch break. Wonderful lunch laid on. And then after lunch, we have group work, and then, of course, it's time for a cup of tea. And then after our cup of tea or coffee, we have a 90-minute group work, and then it's dinner at 6 o'clock. And then after dinner, we have a 90-minute session. So you can see how intense the day is, session after session after session. We work hard, very, very hard while we're there. But they say when you're doing what you love, you will never work a day in your life. And it's not like work. It's an absolute pleasure to be there. As a working medium, I always strive to do the best I can for my recipient or my client, whether that is serving them in a one-to-one private sitting, just me and them, or whether it's serving them during a demonstration of mediumship. In order to do the very best I can, like many mediums who are out there working professionally, I too have had to train continuously to commit to my craft, to understand the mistakes I make, and to have courage to return again and again, to keep trying to deepen the evidence I get from my spirit communicator, to tell their story in the way they want me to, and to be the best ambassador I can be for the spirit world. It takes commitment, a lifetime of commitment and learning. And I love it. Paul Jacobs' course was called Meeting the Needs of Today. Now, I can't and won't give away the course content here, and I highly recommend that you sign up to one of Paul's courses and experience how brilliant they are for yourself. But I will speak about what I learned in regards to my own mediumship development, and I do hope that this episode will inspire you to book your own training course at the Arthur Findlay College, either with Paul or any of the tutors at the AFC. It was an incredible, incredible course and an incredible experience. It was wonderful as well to be able to go and work with like-minded people, to work alongside other professional working mediums who are out there in the world working away. People who have different frames of reference than mine and who are from different countries and cultures. It all makes for fascinating mediumship. We had people from Holland, from Denmark, from Switzerland, from America. We had people from Germany and Belgium and Canada and Australia. Paul Jacobs was talking about not just the needs of the human recipient in front of us, but about meeting the need of our spirit communicator. And I know that I've often forgotten about the need of my spirit communicator. Indeed, I wonder if I've ever even really considered it before. So busy am I trying to understand the feelings and perceptions that they're giving me. I forget to see if I've met their need. Forget to see whether I've translated and told their story in the way they want me to tell it. Of course, as mediums, we're always trying to translate the information that comes from our spirit communicator in the best way we possibly can, always trying to surrender, to move our conscious mind out of the way so it doesn't interfere, to become open and to surrender and to allow more and more evidence to touch the mind. But there are techniques and methods to use, and there are ways to keep it simple and to get to the point. And that is what Paul was so wonderful at helping us with. And I was struggling with that before this course. I was struggling to sometimes hold on to my spirit communicator. They may come into my awareness and they may fade out again, come in and fade out. And I know that is about me working in and sustaining the power. And I know when I don't feel the flow of information so strongly, it's because I've come out of my power. I've stepped out of that power. And a lot of my mediumship these days is trying to establish how to sustain and maintain that power and that link with the spirit world and the spirit communicator, and to never let it go. Because if you are truly in that flow of spirit, the information is so easy to receive and it's not hard. It flows so smoothly. And when you work that closely with your spirit communicator, none of the information is wrong because you don't let your conscious mind interfere in the process. It's just you, your spirit communicator, working together, conversing together, blending energies and smoothly communicating with the recipient. So I felt at the beginning of the week, I had a lot of things I wanted to unfold and to explore within my own mediumship. And I've been contemplating since I've come home about everything that I've learned, everything that I received intuition. And it gives you just so much to consider and to think about. I think I've really deepened my knowledge of myself and how I work. I've deepened my own knowledge of how my own mediumship works, and that is so important. I understand where I'm going wrong. I understand how I can keep a stronger link with my spirit communicator. I understand the necessity for me to have a conversation with my spirit communicator, to ask them for clarification on pieces of information they give me before I give it to the recipient. I mean, we often check in with, and we're taught to check in with our recipient. Do you understand that? Does that resonate with you? And you would understand this, and this would be a memory for you. But how often do we forget to check in with our spirit communicator? Do we ever say to them through our clairsentience, have I got that right for you? Is that what you meant? They don't understand it. Can you give it to me in a different way? I don't think I have those conversations with my spirit communicator. Well, I certainly didn't before I did this course. The college is such a supportive place. The teachers will challenge you to try new things. They will encourage you to try new things, to try to work in a way that is different from the way you usually work, to expand your confidence, to deepen your trust in your spirit communicator. And we have to be brave as students and put our faith in our tutor and do what they're asking us to do, and not to work in the way we always work because it feels safer. We have to try new things and new ways of working. It takes a lot of courage. So I faced a lot of fears during my week. I faced the fear of being wrong. You know, when we get our information, we're always worried. Is this right? Is this my mind? Is this actually what I'm feeling from this spirit communicator? So I faced that fear of inconsistency in my mediumship because you know how it is. Some days it flows so beautifully, and some days, well, it's just a little sticky and it's more difficult to get more and more detailed evidence. I understand better now why my information can become sticky and less detailed. And it's all about staying in the power and working in and sustaining that power. And the biggest thing I learned was to really stay in contact with my clairsentience and never to let that go. And that seems to be key for me because I quickly go to my clairvoyant images because clairvoyance is so strong for me. I can see visions and imagery and symbols and images like a movie playing in my mind. I see that so strongly, clairvoyantly. And because for me that's so strong, I tend to use it all the time. But by me using my clairvoyance all the time, I'm not sensing and feeling the spirit communicator so clearly. Instead, I'm moving my awareness to view what they've given me, and I allow that film to run in my mind. But then I'm not listening back to the spirit communicator and asking, is this what you want to show me? Is this clearly what you are giving me? I tend at that point to let go of the spirit communicator in order to view the information that they give me. So my learning is that I need to stay with the feeling of being strongly bonded with my spirit communicator so that I know when they give me the clairvoyance, but then feeling into the spirit communicator with my clairsentient feeling to understand whether I've received correctly. Is that the exact image they want to give me? And I need to make sure personally, I don't allow my conscious mind or my imagination to come in and fill in the gaps to make sense of what I'm seeing. I shouldn't be filling in the gaps. If I need to be sure, which I do, I need to talk to my spirit communicator for confirmation and not allow my conscious mind to try to creep in and to make sense of it. So that was something I personally learned about my mediumship that was really important for me. And now, since completing the course, I feel I've got a much clearer idea of how it feels when the spirit communicator is working with me and how it feels when a second communicator comes in to work with me and a third communicator comes in to work with me. So for me, that was really, really key. The vital importance of clairsentience and how that should be the very foundation stone of my mediumship. As part of the week's course, we are all expected to demonstrate mediumship in front of the rest of our student cohort. It always makes you feel nervous, especially demonstrating in front of your fellow mediums from across the world. You don't want to mess it up. You don't want to look foolish. You want your link to go well. But I always find when I go to the Arthur Findlay College, my mediumship falls apart. I mean, I've got used to that now. I don't care if it all goes wrong during class time because when I'm out working in a professional capacity, it always goes smoothly. But at the Arthur Findlay College, my mediumship gets deconstructed. I like to think of it like taking a machine apart. If you take a machine apart and you lay out all the parts on the table and you polish them all up and you put the machine back together again, then the machine works better when it's cleaned. It's tighter, it's oiled. Old parts that don't work are taken out and replaced by parts that are much better. And then it's all clean and ready to go. And I feel a little bit like that with my mediumship. I feel I have to take it apart and examine it, get an expert opinion and some recommendations, clean it, tighten it up, make it work better. And then when you leave the Arthur Findlay College, my mediumship can then work smoothly. So years ago, when I went to the AFC, I used to be upset that my mediumship fell apart in front of the tutors because I always used to think, no, you need to know that my mediumship is so much better than that. And when I'm out there working, I can sometimes be quite brilliant. And why can't you see me on a good day instead of today? Why do you have to assess my mediumship based on what I've just shown you in this classroom, which has all gone wrong? But the great thing about Paul Jacobs was he's not interested in our fabulous information we got from the spirit world. He takes it as a given because we're all professional mediums. He was interested in whether we'd done the exercise he'd asked us to do. And it was wonderful because that meant there was no room for my ego to enter the space. I could focus on the technique he was teaching me. Whether or not it worked was immaterial. I was focused on the technique, making sure I understood the process of it. And of course, everyone in my group was so supportive of each other. It was a brilliant, brilliant group. All of us wanting each other to succeed and be better and to stretch ourselves to work in these new ways. And it was fabulous to have that kind of support from my fellow mediums. So thank you to everyone who was on that course with me. I absolutely loved your company and I learned so much from each one of you. As for my demonstration at the AFC, it was a 7-minute link. That's all I had to do, give a 7-minute link. And I was demonstrating in the library at the AFC College. And for those of you that haven't been there, it's the most beautiful library with wood paneling and very, very old books set behind glass panes. It has a huge fireplace with a big mantelpiece, and there are massive oil paintings that hang down from the high walls. And many, many pioneers of mediumship have demonstrated in that library. And we are looked down upon by a beautiful portrait of Gordon Higginson and a new beautiful portrait of Mavis Patilla. And they are both watching over us as we're working. So it feels that we're being very supported, not only from the students in front of us, but supported from our beautiful pioneers and tutors of mediumship in the spirit world, former tutors at the Arthur Findlay College, still teaching us from the spirit side. So that was really very, very beautiful. And what I learned about my own demonstration of mediumship was this. Now, bear in mind, this was only a 7-minute link. It's not a long time to be working. At the beginning, for me, it was very itty and bitty. I was trying to establish from the spirit world who was with me, the relationship to the recipient, and trying to establish one clear piece of information before placing the link with a correct recipient by allowing the spirit communicator to lead me in the direction of the person they wanted to speak to in the audience. So, is it the left-hand side of the room? If it is it 2 rows back or 1 row from the front? Where is it you feel drawn to? I struggled with that because I was trying a new way of working. I was trying it the way I was asked to do it. So it was a little bit difficult and itty and bitty and messy. And I'm sure if Paul had been watching, he'd have been rolling his eyes. It took me forever to make my connection, but I finally placed the link. And after the information just flowed so beautifully, and I really, really enjoyed working. I mean, it was only 7 minutes, like I say, and it flies by in a second. But I had this gentleman with me from the spirit world who played the piano accordion. That was my first key piece of information. He plays the piano accordion, and I know his fingers fly up and down the keys like this. And I know he has arthritis in his fingers. I feel it's a grandfather. And I looked around the room, and I feel I'm with this lady in the second row. Well, she couldn't understand the grandfather. She couldn't understand the information. So I threw it out to the room. Does anybody understand this? And then 3 people put their hands up. So obviously I hadn't honed it down properly. I'd left it too open because 3 people can now take the information. And if I've really got the right person and they give me the right information from the spirit world, then only 1 person in the room should put their hand up. And eventually, after diddling around, I placed the link with Jackie Wright, who is the president of the Spiritualist National Union and head of the college. And she was assessing me. So it was very nerve-wracking, but she was so kind and such a supportive tutor. I gave her some information about the man and she could take all the things I was saying. And the reason the information flowed was because I had placed the link in the right place with the right person. The man playing the piano accordion really did want to speak to Jackie. It was fantastic. And I gave her lots of information. And at the very end of the link, I was able to say, you know what, Jackie? He doesn't want to leave his love with you as a message. He wants to leave a song in this space. He wants to play the piano accordion again for everybody here in this space. And he's just so delighted to be able to play it here once again. And Jackie said to me, he actually did used to play the piano accordion in this very library. And that was really powerful for me. It was really, really powerful because for you, I got somebody correct for Jackie Wright and it was a beautiful link. But it was also really, really powerful because I had made so many mistakes at the beginning. And that's where I did my learning. My ego, of course, loved placing a link with Jackie Wright. My ego loved her receiving the information well. My ego loved the fact that she said that the gentleman used to play the piano accordion in that very room. But my ego had nothing to learn, only to be stroked by that information. I had nothing to learn from that experience. Where I did my major learning was in the mistakes I made at the beginning. And that is what I'm so, so grateful for. Because there's no point in us doing perfect demonstrations in a teaching environment. There's no point in trying to be the be-all and the end-all with our mediumship links. We have to make those mistakes because that is where the learning comes. And we have to be so grateful for those mistakes because the learning doesn't just come for us, but for our fellow mediums who watch us as we struggle and we make those mistakes. We listen as a group to what the teacher says to us to correct our mistake, and we learn through that mistake, and it helps everybody in the class. We all learn from each other, and what we each struggle with, we learn how to correct things, how to make it better. So I thank each and every one of my fellow mediums who had the courage to stand up and try these new and different ways of working, who had the courage to take apart their mediumship and rebuild it in front of us all. I learned so much from you. Thank you. I think it really builds resilience in us. You know, if we make mistakes, if we view them as failures, it can discourage us from taking risks and trying new things. So I've been really embracing the idea that mistakes are opportunities to learn so that I can develop resilience. And I'm more willing now to step out of my comfort zone, knowing that if I stumble, I can bounce back stronger, wiser, and more knowing. I also find mistakes help me reflect and to get a deeper understanding on the topic of mediumship, and that they help me to gain valuable insights and pave the way for improvement. And also, by embracing my mistakes, it encourages in me a growth mindset, which encourages me in turn to continually learn and to improve and to overcome any challenge with dedication and perseverance. And I love Thomas Edison, who once famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And in his case, and I think it works for us too, embracing mistakes can lead to unexpected breakthroughs because they encourage us to explore alternative approaches and to think outside the box. And it also helps us to develop humility, empathy, and a willingness to grow both professionally and personally. So it's good to keep in mind that the journey of learning is not about being flawless from the start. It's about embracing challenges, learning from our mistakes, and persisting until we succeed. So next time you encounter a setback or you make an error, just remember it's an opportunity for growth and improvement rather than a failure. So I had to make those mistakes during my demonstration at the AFC because that's where my learning came from. And that was the vital part for me. I couldn't place that link initially, and finally I did. So feeling into the power of it, feeling into the power of that beautiful man, listening to him playing that piano accordion and listening to him, feeling him showing me and telling me how everybody used to dance when he played and leap around the dance floor, etc., etc. And I got such great feedback from Jackie afterwards, but I threw it out too early. I needed to feel into him more to strengthen my connection with those in the spirit world and through my clairsentience, not through my clairvoyance. I also learned not to give everything out in the order I receive it. So I get the information, I can see it in my mind's eye, I can feel it, I can sense it, but I'm choosing now, I'm able to talk now to my spirit communicator through my clairsentience. And as I'm saying one sentence, I'm able to be having that conversation with my spirit communicator as well. He's not understanding what you meant. Okay, great. And give the next sentence. Check with my spirit communicator. Have I got that right for you? Hey, could you give me that in a different way so the recipient will better understand? Thank you. So, it's another tick on the box of technique. I certainly haven't mastered it. Don't get me wrong. I have yet to master this, but it's something that I've learned, which I want to put into my practice of mediumship going forward. And something that Paul Jacobs said, which I found so interesting, was that Gordon Higginson used to say, if you could see the photo frame for your recipient, then you can also see what's in it. So if the photo frame is there, then so is the contents of that photo frame. So as a medium, there's no point in saying to our recipient, there's a photo frame on your sideboard. The recipient may well say yes. But if we were to say, there's a photo frame on your sideboard of you feeding ducks at a village pond, yes, that is evidence. And that makes a great medium. A photo frame on the sideboard, kind of lazy, isn't it? We're not looking properly. We're not surrendering to look deeper and deeper into the evidence presented to us by our communicator. We haven't given the significance of it. And that is what will make extraordinary mediumship going forward for all of us as we work in this movement of spiritualism. So, going back to my link in the library, I had my piano accordion playing man, but I hadn't given the significance of what that piano accordion was. So I didn't look deep enough. Yes, I play the piano accordion. That's not enough. I should have said, I've got a man here who plays the piano accordion. Feel into it. He's played it since he was a boy, and he's had and played a different sized piano accordion with each year of his age, and he still has them all. Who am I with? That would have been far more evidential, because I would have said what the significance of that piano accordion was. So that's great learning for me. Why have I got that information? There's no point in me just hoping the recipient will say, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, because that's our job as a medium. So I've learned to do that, to feel what is the significance of the piece of information that I have received. And the other thing I learned from this course is that our spirit communicator will give us something at the beginning that will always lead us to the message. That's a beautiful example with my piano accordion man. His message was not that he wanted to leave love with everybody, but that he wanted to leave his song in the space. And I felt him so strongly, and that's what he wanted to do. And that's what his raison d'etre was. And of course, I gave a lot of other evidence once that link was placed, but that led to the message, which was, I want to play once again in the library for everybody here and just lift everybody's spirits as I always used to. And it was just so beautifully received by Jackie as well when she said that he did used to play in that space. So that was the message which led through that first piece of information that I received. Really, really beautiful. So it was an amazing week. I studied with some wonderful fellow mediums, like I said, from across the globe, a new family of friends that I've met. And there was a time during the week where I looked around in the dining hall and I was watching everybody having their lunch or breakfast or supper. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, look at all these people, all of us feeling the same things, knowing the same things, feeling the same psychic experiences, experiencing the spirit world. And we've all come to seek out tuition for that, because we're all experiencing the same things in each of our homes, each of our countries across the world. What a magnificent, incredible place the college is to bring everybody together in this way. People I spoke to, fellow mediums on the course, they were going home to their villages, to their towns in different countries, and they don't have any training places near them. They don't have the Arthur Findlay College. They don't have spiritualist churches to demonstrate in. They don't have tuition of any kind. They just go home and they're on their own. They are lonely and they're hungry, spiritually hungry. And this is the reason that I started the Psychic Matters podcast, to bring the tuition of experts from across the globe to everybody out there who needs it for free. Because when I was training, well, of course I am still training, as you can see, but when I began my journey, I had nothing. I didn't have a Psychic Matters podcast to listen to. I didn't have any access to any free tuition at all. I couldn't leave my 2 children alone to go out and train. I had no family support. I had no financial means to spend on any training at all. There was no internet. There was no such thing. That is why this podcast is so very, very important to me. It's a real passion of mine to be able to go out there and to let people have access to the guidance of teachings of experts across the globe for free. And some of you may have seen that I have a tiny little t-shirt shop. I created some t-shirt slogans and I put them on the front of my t-shirts. And for each t-shirt I sell, I receive £2.75. And that little £2.75 comes to me, and that money supports the podcast, all the overheads, all the free hours of work I put into it, the cost of subscriptions to the apps I need to pay for in order to create the trailers, the cost of apps I need to run the podcast, the cost of Zoom to interview my guests, cost for editing programs, cost for creating the artwork on Canva Professional. I mean, costs I have to pay for to hang the podcast on the internet in the first place. All kinds of costs and overheads need to be paid in order for me to make it. So if you ever feel you want to support the podcast in some small way and you'd like a little t-shirt, please do go and buy one and support it by supporting the podcast. You're helping me to create it and create episodes of the show so that people like my new friends at the Arthur Findlay College who go home to their villages and have nothing, they can at least listen to a podcast for free. And you are supporting them, helping people who are alone in all corners of the world, who may never, ever, ever be able to afford to get to the Arthur Findlay College. You are supporting them in getting access to the knowledge and information they need. So a new family of friends, like I say, world-class tuition, a brilliant course, and it moves you in so many different ways. It's not just about the tuition. It's often about the little things that people might say to you in a corner as you're talking over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Or it's about the connections that you make in the bar afterwards over a drink. Or the things that we share with each other, the experiences and stories that we share with like-minded people. There's just so much peace there, so much upliftment, so much joy, so much knowledge, and everybody with the same drive to push forward the boundaries of human consciousness again. As you all know, this is another huge passion of mine. And when the course had finished, I went across to St. Mary's Church. For those of you that haven't been to the Arthur Findlay College, there is a church just beyond the grounds of the Arthur Findlay College called St. Mary's Church. And I always go there afterwards to say my personal thank you to Arthur Findlay. He's buried there next to his wife. And I always like to go and say thank you for allowing me to stay in your beautiful home. And thank you for bringing everybody together in this way. And it's just so lovely the day that I went to give my thanks to Arthur Findlay, because the sun was shining and the bells were ringing in the church tower. So I recorded them and I'm going to play them here now for you. Those bells were ringing and I've never heard them ring before. The door of the church was open and I've never been in before. And it was just so beautiful in there. As I entered the church, a breathtaking sight unfolded before me. The air was thick with a delicate fragrance of blooming flowers. It was as if a vibrant tapestry had been woven within the ancient sacred walls, and every inch was adorned with nature's most enchanting creations. There were peonies, resplendent in their full voluptuous bloom, standing proudly with their soft petals in various shades of pink and ivory and crimson, exuding an aura of elegance and grace. Lilacs were dancing on the breeze from the open doorway, and their clusters of dainty blossoms boasted a rich palette of purples and lavenders and whites, and there were lush ferns cascading down from pedestals, playing with light and shadow from delicate patterns through the stained glass windows above, illuminating all the floral displays. It was a kaleidoscope of colours there. Every nook and cranny of that church seemed to have been transformed into the sanctuary of natural beauty. It was just breathtaking, astonishing. And there was a cleaning lady there. She was so kind and so helpful and so knowledgeable. She said, "We're having a wedding here today for the first time in 35 years. And the bells are ringing for the bride or the groom." I wasn't sure who was getting married, what sex or gender they were, but the bells were ringing for that happy couple. And it was just so beautiful to be there. And she was so wonderful. It was just a really, really lovely way to finish my week. And one of the things that was said to me at the college this week was, don't let mediumship be your entire life. Do other things outside of it. You have to live a full life, do other things that lift your soul and give you joy. And I know here in my little healing space, I've got a little painting in the corner of my room that's been unfinished for a year. And some of my students who come online to learn with me on some of my courses, they sometimes see that it's been there forever unfinished. But I'm going to finish that painting now. I'm going to use my soul, not just for mediumship and in service, but in service to me and to express my creative self as well. I also bought some beautiful books from the Arthur Findlay shop. I bought The Healing Intelligence with Harriet Edward, An Exploration of Trance Mediumship by Chris Ratter. I got Paul Jacobs' beautiful book, Man of Spirit, which he graciously signed for me. Thank you very much, Paul. And I also bought Jackie Wright's book, Pathway to Mediumship, because I was really interested in her backstory. She is such a beautiful, gracious, kind person, as are all the tutors there. So I'm going to sign off and say goodbye. But just before I do, a reminder. Every Tuesday evening for free online, I hold something called the Mediumship Hour. It's been going now for about 3 years, and it's 1 hour of mediumship. I usually share the platform with one other medium, so I will demonstrate for half an hour, and my fellow medium will demonstrate for the other half an hour. And I usually demonstrate alongside fantastic medium Leslie Malone and also fantastic medium Tyrone Cusack. And whenever Leslie or Tyrone can't make it, I often work alongside guest mediums too. So do come along and enjoy it. All the details for that are on my website, anntheato.com, ANNTHEATO.com. It starts promptly at 7 o'clock UK time zone. So that's 2 o'clock EST. Every single Tuesday throughout the year. It's always on. So do come and join us. It's the same Zoom link every single week. You can pick it up on my website, like I said, and you can see me trying out my new techniques of mediumship. I mean, you hopefully won't be able to know that they're new techniques, but it may be just listening to this episode will help you to understand that there's so much more to mediumship than we first perhaps consider. And that's whether we're a professional working medium or whether we're somebody with just a vague interest in mediumship itself. It's a fascinating topic, and I will be trying hard to bring ever more detailed evidence and have those very important conversations with my spirit communicator. So I have an awful lot to thank Paul Jacobs for personally, who gave his all in that week as a course tutor and course organizer, and to his incredible fellow tutors who worked alongside him that week, and I had the good fortune to learn from also, Jackie Wright, Jose Goschalk, and Penny Frances. Thank you to all of you for everything that you taught me this week. I'll be back. My name is Ann Théato, and thank you for listening to Psychic Matters.